What happens when a 28-year-old personal injury lawyer mocks a wheelchair-bound accident victim in open court, laughing at her disability while insisting she's faking her injuries for money? This arrogant attorney, Liam Bellingham, walked into Judge Judy's courtroom carrying a $10,000 briefcase, wearing a designer suit and acting as if his law degree made him untouchable. But he made one fatal error, actually laughing out loud as the disabled plaintiff struggled to reach the witness stand. Judge Judy's response became one of the most explosive moments in courtroom television history. He stood there in his Armani suit and Patek Philippe watch, smirking as he told Judge Judy that the plaintiff, Patricia Henderson, was probably exaggerating her paralysis to get a settlement. The entire courtroom went silent. No one realized that within the next 15 minutes, Liam Bellingham was about to destroy his own legal career. That contemptuous laugh would cost him everything he had spent 6 years building. And the consequences Judge Judy delivered would later be discussed in law schools across America, proving that some lawyers forget the most essential principle. Compassion is not optional in the practice of law. Before we get into this unbelievable story, fewer than 5% of the viewers are actually subscribed. If you believe in defending the disabled, supporting victims, and holding powerful people accountable, hit that subscribe button now. What you're about to witness will remind you that justice still exists. This lawyer has no idea what is about to happen. It's a Thursday afternoon in Judge Judy's courtroom, and what appears to be a straightforward personal injury case is about to become something far more meaningful. At the plaintiff's table sits Patricia Henderson, a 52-year-old former elementary school teacher from Brooklyn. She positions her wheelchair carefully at the stand, her hands resting on the armrests, her expression carrying the quiet dignity of someone who spent 27 years teaching children and a lifetime serving her community. Patricia taught second grade at PS 321 in Park Slope, where she was loved by students, parents, and colleagues. She spent her weekends volunteering as a reading tutor for struggling students and raised 2 children as a single mother while never missing a day of work. 8 months ago, everything changed. On March 15th, Patricia was driving home from parent-teacher conferences around 8:30 in the evening. She was stopped at a red light on Flatbush Avenue, likely thinking about her students or preparing the next day's lessons. At that moment, Jonathan Hayes, a 34-year-old insurance company executive, ran a red light at 50 miles per hour while texting his girlfriend. He struck Patricia's driver's side door with such force that her Toyota Camry spun twice before crashing into a tree. Patricia woke up 3 days later in Kings County Hospital, unable to feel her legs. Doctors delivered the news that shattered her world: severe spinal cord damage, permanent paralysis from the waist down, and the end of her teaching career. Her independence was gone. Her life as she knew it had been completely transformed in the 3 seconds it took for someone else's negligence to shatter it. The medical bills began immediately, quickly surpassing $340,000 for emergency surgery, intensive care, rehabilitation, physical therapy, and the wheelchair she now relied on to move. Jonathan Hayes admitted fault at the scene. The police report stated plainly that he had been texting while driving. Traffic camera footage showed him running the red light. There was absolutely no dispute about liability. Then the insurance companies stepped in. Hayes worked for Consolidated National Insurance, one of the largest insurance providers in the country. And they had a legal team whose mandate was simple: deny, delay, defend. They paid Patricia's initial emergency room expenses and then announced that any further claims were questionable, unverifiable, and likely exaggerated. They offered her $500 to settle the entire matter and disappear. When Patricia refused, the company assigned the case to Liam Bellingham, a 28-year-old defense attorney at Whitman & Associates, one of Manhattan's most aggressive corporate defense firms. Liam had graduated at the top of his class from Columbia Law School. He had won 47 of his 50 cases in his 6-year career. He specialized in personal injury defense, meaning his job was to protect insurance companies and corporations from paying victims what they were owed. He excelled at it ruthlessly. His annual salary exceeded $400,000, and he wore his success like armor. Expensive suits, luxury watches, imported briefcases, and an attitude that announced, "I'm smarter than everyone in this room," during pretrial mediation. Liam treated Patricia with blatant contempt. He glanced at her wheelchair and said, "You're probably faking half those injuries for a payday." When she attempted to explain her medical condition, he cut her off with, "Save the sob story for someone who cares. I've seen 1,000 people like you trying to get rich off minor accidents." Patricia's son, who had accompanied her, began recording the meeting when Liam's comments crossed into outright abuse. The video captured him saying, "Enjoy living in that wheelchair you probably don't even need. I'll see you in court, and when I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd taken that $500. The clip went viral within hours, 2.4 million views in 3 days. Local news stations picked it up. Disability rights activists organized protests outside Whitman and Associates. Public outrage became so overwhelming that Consolidated National Insurance pushed the case into Judge Judy's courtroom under the banner of public accountability, though everyone knew it was really an act of PR damage control. Now Liam Bellingham walks into Judge Judy's courtroom as if he's strolling into a coffee shop, casual, distracted, slightly irritated by the inconvenience. He's wearing an $8,000 charcoal gray Armani suit. His hair is slicked back with expensive product. His crocodile leather briefcase lands on the defendant's table with a loud thud that draws every eye. He checks his Patek Philippe watch, a $45,000 timepiece worth more than many people earn in a year, and barely acknowledges the bailiff as he enters. Liam doesn't consider Judge Judy's court to be real law. To him, it's entertainment, small claims theatrics for people who can't afford proper attorneys. He's only there because his firm's partners forced him to clean up the PR disaster he created. When Judge Judy enters, the entire courtroom rises except Liam. He's staring at his phone, scrolling through emails, either completely unaware or deliberately disrespectful. It's impossible to tell which. Judge Judy notices immediately. Her eyes lock onto him like a laser sight. "Mr. Bellingham." Her voice slices through the courtroom like a blade. "You're a lawyer. You should know better than to treat my courtroom like a subway platform. Stand up when I'm talking to you." Liam looks up from his phone, mildly surprised that anyone is daring to correct him. He rises slowly, lazily, as if standing is a favor he's granting her. "Your Honor, I apologize. I assumed we were keeping this informal given the..." Venal, the way he says venal drips with condescension, and everyone hears it. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed dangerously. "The venue is my courtroom, and I've been a judge longer than you've been alive. Try again." Liam adjusts his tie and puts on his polished professional expression. "Of course, Your Honor, my apologies." It isn't a real apology. It's the hollow, practiced courtesy lawyers use when irritated but trying to look respectful. Judge Judy sees straight through him, but she chooses to let him unravel under the weight of his own arrogance. After decades on the bench, she can immediately recognize the dangerous mix of intelligence without wisdom, education without character. Judge Judy shifts her attention to Patricia Henderson, and her tone softens. Her voice becomes warmer, gentler. "Ms. Henderson, tell me what happened on March 15th. Patricia steadies herself, taking a deep breath. The memory plainly hurts, but she speaks with calm clarity. "Your Honor, I was driving home from parent-teacher conferences at PS 321, where I teach where I used to teach second grade. It was about 8:30 in the evening, and I was stopped at a red light on Flatbush Avenue near the intersection with Atlantic. I was probably thinking about my students when suddenly there was this tremendous impact. She pauses, gathering herself. Everything went white. I heard metal crushing, glass breaking, and then I was spinning. My car hit a streetlight, and everything went dark. Her voice shakes slightly, but she continues. I woke up 3 days later in Kings County Hospital. I couldn't feel my legs. I kept trying to move them, wiggle my toes, anything. But there was nothing. Just nothing. The doctors told me I had severe spinal cord damage from the crash. They said the paralysis was permanent. She motions to her wheelchair. This is my life now, Your Honor. I can't teach. I can't walk. I can't do the things I used to do. And the person who caused this and his insurance company are saying I'm exaggerating. Judge Judy studies the medical records in front of her, glasses perched on her nose. Then she looks up at Liam, double quotes Mr. Bellingham. I've reviewed the traffic camera footage. Your client ran a red light while texting. The police report confirms fault. Liability here is crystal clear. Your insurance company is denying this claim. Why? Liam rises, and his posture radiates condescension. Your Honor, with all due respect, my client's insurance company has already paid for Ms. Henderson's immediate medical costs. We covered the emergency room, the initial surgery, the ambulance transport. What she's claiming now: permanent disability, lost income, emotional damages. Pain and suffering, these are all highly subjective and, frankly, unverifiable. Judge Judy's tone sharpens. Unverifiable. She's in a wheelchair, Mr. Bellingham. How much more verification do you need? Liam actually smiles, as if he's about to patiently educate someone who simply doesn't grasp how insurance law works. Your Honor, I've been practicing personal injury defense for 6 years. I've handled hundreds of cases, and from extensive experience, I can tell you, I've seen countless plaintiffs exaggerate injuries for financial gain. Wheelchairs can be rented. Pain can be performed. There's even a medical term for it: litigation syndrome, where symptoms conveniently worsen during a lawsuit and magically improve after a settlement. The courtroom falls silent. Patricia's eyes fill with tears. Her hands grip the armrests of her wheelchair so hard that her knuckles turn white. Her son in the gallery begins to rise, anger flashing in his eyes. But Bailiff Bird gives him a look that clearly says, "Sit down and let the judge handle this." Judge Judy removes her glasses slowly. Deliberately, a signature move that every court show viewer knows signals that someone is about to be obliterated. "Mr. Bellingham," she says, "are you suggesting that Ms. Henderson is faking paralysis?" Amazingly, Liam doubles down. His confidence in his own reasoning and his ego blinds him to the disaster he's walking directly into. "I'm suggesting, Your Honor, that her claimed level of disability seems remarkably convenient for her lawsuit. I've reviewed similar cases where individuals with comparable injuries display dramatic recovery once settlements were finalized. The human body is incredibly resilient, and the promise of a large payout can be quite the incentive for, shall we say, prolonged symptoms." Judge Judy leans forward. Her voice turns dangerously quiet, the unmistakable calm before the storm. "Ms. Henderson, would you attempt to stand for the court?" Patricia looks stunned, then crushed. "Your Honor, I can't. I've tried every single day for 8 months. Every morning I wake up hoping something has changed, hoping I'll feel something, anything. But I can't feel anything below my waist. I can't move my legs. I can't stand." Judge Judy's tone softens, though it remains firm. "I understand, Ms. Henderson, but I want Mr. Bellingham to see for himself. Would you try for me?" Patricia nods, tears running down her face. She positions her wheelchair as close to the stand as she can. She grips the armrests tightly, her arms trembling with strain. Her face tightens with effort. She is trying with everything. She has every bit of strength, every ounce of will. The muscles in her arms flex. Her shoulders tense. Her entire upper body fights to lift her, but her legs do not move. They remain motionless, lifeless, unresponsive. It is agonizing to watch. This is a woman who wants nothing more than to prove she isn't faking, to stand up, to walk again. But she can't. After 30 seconds of trying, she collapses back into her wheelchair, sobbing. "I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. I can't." And that is the moment everything changes. The moment that destroys Liam Bellingham's career. He lets out a short, derisive laugh. Not a full laugh, just a scoff. A dismissive chuckle paired with a headshake and an eye roll. Then he speaks the words that will haunt him for the rest of his life. "Oh, come on." That's quite a performance. The courtroom explodes. People in the gallery leap to their feet, shouting. Patricia's son shouts, "How dare you? How dare you laugh at my mother?" Audience members scream at Liam, calling him heartless, cruel, a monster. Bailiff Byrd rushes toward the gallery, trying to regain control. Even Liam's own client, the insurance executive seated behind him, looks horrified. His face drains of color. His mouth falls open. He realizes instantly that his company is now exposed to massive liability because their attorney has just committed professional suicide on national television. And Judge Judy stands up. She actually rises from her bench, something she almost never does. Her face is red, her eyes burning with fury. When she speaks, her voice trembles with barely contained rage. Every word lands like a hammer strike. "Bailiff, clear this courtroom. Everyone out except the parties, counsel, and my staff." Now, Byrd moves quickly, ushering the stunned audience members out. They file out in shocked silence, many still staring at Liam with disgust and disbelief. Within 2 minutes, the gallery is empty. Only Liam, Patricia, the insurance executive, Bailiff Byrd, the court stenographer, and Judge Judy remain. The doors close with a heavy thud that echoes through the silent courtroom. Judge Judy stays standing, her hands gripping the edge of the bench. When she finally speaks, her voice is controlled. But the fury underneath is unmistakable. In 30 years on the bench, she begins, her voice quivering with restrained anger. In family court, in criminal court, and in this courtroom, I have never never witnessed such disgusting, callous, inhumane behavior from an officer of the court. You just laughed at a disabled woman trying to stand. You laughed at her. Liam's smug confidence evaporates. For the first time since he entered the courtroom, he looks genuinely frightened. His face is pale, and he clutches the edge of the defendant's table for support. "Your Honor, I didn't mean to. I was simply trying to." Judge Judy cuts him off with a sharp gesture, so abrupt it feels like a physical blow. Don't you dare try to explain that away. I saw what I saw. This court saw what it saw. The cameras captured every second of it, and millions of people are going to see what they're about to see. You laughed at a woman in a wheelchair who was crying because she cannot stand. You laughed at her pain. You laughed at her disability, and you had the audacity to call her genuine suffering a performance? Liam tries again, his instincts as a lawyer kicking in as he desperately searches for any argument that might salvage the situation. "Your Honor, I apologize if my reaction was misinterpreted. I was simply expressing skepticism about misinterpreted." Judge Judy's voice rises sharply. "There's no interpretation needed, Mr. Bellingham. You laughed. Everyone heard it. The stenographer recorded it. The cameras caught it. Your contempt for this woman is documented from every possible angle. Now sit down and be quiet while I decide what to do with you." Liam sits. For the first time, he looks small. all the expensive education, all the corporate success, all the arrogances, all gone. What remains is a young man who has just realized he's made a catastrophic mistake. Judge Judy takes a slow breath. Steadying herself, then turns to Patricia with unmistakable compassion. Ms. Henderson, I want to apologize to you on behalf of this court. What you just endured should never happen to anyone, especially not in a place where you came seeking justice. You showed tremendous courage when you tried to stand after I asked you to, and I am deeply sorry that your effort was met with such cruelty. Patricia wipes her tears and nods. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Judy continues, her voice firm and authoritative. Now, let's discuss the actual facts of this case. Mr. Bellingham seems to have completely forgotten. Your client, Mr. Hayes, ran a red light while texting and driving. The traffic camera footage is irrefutable. The police report clearly states he admitted fault at the scene. Ms. Henderson was lawfully stopped at a red light when your client's vehicle struck hers at approximately 50 miles per hour. The impact was so severe it spun her car twice before it crashed into a streetlight. She looks directly at Liam, her gaze unyielding. She sustained life-altering injuries that left her permanently disabled. She lost her teaching career she dedicated 27 years to. Her medical bills exceed $340,000 and will continue for the rest of her life. The liability here is absolute, complete, and unquestionable. Judge Judy's eyes lock on to Liam. So explain to me, counselor, how your insurance company justified denying this claim. Liam clears his throat, trying to reconstruct some semblance of composure. Your Honor, the insurance company's position is that we paid the immediate emergency medical expenses as required by law. The additional claims for ongoing care, loss of income, and pain and suffering are separate matters we believe are inflated beyond reasonable compensation. We offered a settlement of $500. Judge Judy cuts in. You offered this woman $500 after your client destroyed her life. Liam shifts uncomfortably. The settlement offer was a starting point for negotiation. Your Honor, these cases typically involve back-and-forth discussions until we reach a reasonable middle ground. There is no middle ground between $500 and justice. Mr. Bellingham, there is no negotiation between human decency and corporate greed. Your client's insurance company collected premiums for years while promising they would provide coverage when needed. When that moment came, they sent you to humiliate and discredit the victim. How much does your firm charge per hour, Mr. Bellingham? Liam hesitates. That depends on the nature of the work, Your Honor. Answer the question. What's your billable rate? $450 per hour. Judge Judy's eyebrows lift. $450 an hour. So your insurance company client will pay your firm hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight compensating this woman fairly. They'll spend more on legal fees attempting to deny her claim than they would have spent simply covering her medical care from the start. Does that sound like reasonable business practice to you, counselor? Liam has no real answer. That's a business decision made by the insurance company. Your Honor, not by me personally, but you are the one who walked into my courtroom, looked at a disabled woman, suggested she was faking paralysis, called her suffering a performance, and then laughed when she couldn't stand. Those were your choices, Mr. Bellingham, your personal choices, and you're going to face personal consequences for them. Judge Judy Justice encourages viewers to subscribe if they believe lawyers who mock disabled victims should face repercussions. Because what she does next is not merely a ruling, it is a complete dismantling of the man's arrogance. Judge Judy turns to her files, reviewing them slowly and deliberately. The courtroom is so quiet it feels suspended in time. Patricia sits in her wheelchair, emotionally drained from everything that has just happened. Liam stands stiffly, his expensive suit now looking like nothing but a costume presentation without substance. Behind him, the insurance executive frantically types on his phone, likely warning his superiors that this case has spiraled into a public relations disaster. At last, Judge Judy looks up. Her expression radiates absolute authority. "Mr. Bellingham, I'm finding for the plaintiff, Ms. Patricia Henderson, in the amount of $5,000, the maximum I can award in this court." She pauses. "This judgment is against your client's insurance company, Consolidated National Insurance. But that is only the beginning of what is about to happen here." Liam visibly relaxes. $5,000 is nothing to his client. He could write that check today and be done with it. He reaches for his briefcase. "Your Honor, I'll prepare the check immediately, and I'm not finished," Judge Judy snaps. "Sit down and shut your mouth." Liam freezes, then slowly sinks back into his seat. Judge Judy continues, her voice as hard as steel. "I am also ordering Consolidated National Insurance to immediately reverse their denial of Ms. Henderson's full claim. That includes complete medical coverage past, present, and future. Every surgery, every doctor's appointment, every physical therapy session, every piece of medical equipment she will require for the rest of her life. Full compensation for loss of income based on her teaching salary and expected career trajectory until retirement age. Compensation for pain and suffering. Compensation for loss of quality of life. Compensation for necessary home modifications to accommodate her disability. Everything. And if Consolidated National Insurance does not comply with this order within 30 days, I will forward this entire proceeding, including all video footage, to the New York State Department of Financial Services for investigation into bad faith insurance claim denial practices." The insurance executive audibly gasps. Judge Judy turns toward him. "You represent Consolidated National Insurance, correct?" The man stands quickly. "Yes, Your Honor. My name is Robert Chen. I'm the Regional Claims Director. Mr. Chen, does your company intend to comply with this order?" Chen glances at Liam, then back to Judge Judy. He's calculating rapidly the cost of compliance versus the cost of a regulatory investigation, public outrage, and the potential for class action litigation if this becomes evidence of a broader pattern. "Your Honor, we will comply immediately. We sincerely apologize for how this case was handled. We never intended for Ms. Henderson to be treated with anything less than complete respect and dignity." "Save your apologies, Mr. Chen. Your company sent Mr. Bellingham here to intimidate a disabled woman. You offered her $500 for life-altering injuries. You denied a clear liability claim to save money. The only reason you're complying now is because you know I can make your regulatory life a nightmare." She pauses, "But fine. I'll accept your compliance. Sit down." Chen drops into his seat immediately, relieved to be out of focus. But Judge Judy isn't finished. Not even close. She turns back to Liam, her expression sharpening even further. "Mr. Bellingham, you mentioned that you attended Columbia Law School." Liam nods cautiously, uncertain where this is heading. "Yes, Your Honor. I graduated in the top 10% of my class." "Top 10%, she repeats. "Impressive. Tell me, did they teach legal ethics at Columbia?" "Of course, Your Honor. It's a required course for all law students." "And do you remember what you learned about professional responsibility? About an attorney's duty to maintain the dignity and integrity of the legal profession?" Liam's face drains of color. He suddenly understands exactly where Judge Judy is going with this. "Your Honor, do you remember learning that attorneys have an obligation to treat all parties with respect, regardless of their circumstances? That mocking, belittling, or showing contempt for litigants is grounds for professional discipline." Judge Judy is not finished. She has one final component to add to Liam's consequences, and may be the most devastating of all. "And there's one more thing. Mr. Bellingham, You mentioned during your apology that you hope to learn from this experience. Well, I'm going to make sure that learning happens in the most effective way possible. She pauses. You're going to share your story. You're going to speak at law schools throughout New York State about what happened here today. You're going to stand in front of law students and explain exactly how your arrogance, your contempt, and your lack of compassion destroyed your career in 15 minutes. You're going to tell them about the moment you laughed at a disabled woman and how that single laugh cost you everything. Liam stares at her in absolute horror. Public speaking. At law schools. Your Honor, that S humiliation. Students will record it. It'll end up all over social media. Everyone in the legal community will see it. Mr. Bellingham, Judge Judy says, her voice cold as ice. Humiliation is what you attempted to inflict on Ms. Henderson when you accused her of faking her disability in open court. What you're receiving now is called education. You are going to teach the next generation of lawyers what happens when someone forgets that the law is meant to serve justice, not egos and corporate profits. Liam looks like he might collapse. His face is ashen, and he grips the table so tightly his knuckles turn white. But Judge Judy has saved her most powerful words for last. She rises again, and when she speaks, her voice fills the courtroom with the force of 3 decades of judicial authority. Ms. Henderson, she says, turning to Patricia with genuine respect, I want you to know something important. You came into this courtroom today with dignity. Despite everything you've endured, despite the pain, the loss, and the challenges you face every single day, you have maintained your grace. You testified with honesty and courage. You tried to stand when I asked you to, even though it caused you emotional pain. Because you wanted this court to see the truth. And even after Mr. Bellingham laughed at your disability, Evan, after he showed you contempt and cruelty, you still found it in your heart to accept his apology with kindness. That takes a strength that most people, including me, do not possess. Patricia is crying again. But these tears are different. They are tears of validation, of finally being seen, heard, and believed after months of being dismissed and doubted. Judge Judy continues, and her words seem to resonate far beyond the courtroom. You may have lost the use of your legs, Ms. Henderson, but you have not lost what makes you truly remarkable. You have not lost your humanity, your compassion, or your dignity. Those qualities don't come from physical ability, they come from character. And your character has been tested by tragedy and proven to be absolutely unbreakable. You are a teacher. And today, you taught everyone in this courtroom, and everyone who will watch this video lesson about grace under pressure, about maintaining dignity in the face of cruelty, and about the difference between people who possess strength and people who only possess power. Patricia can barely speak through her tears. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for believing me. I believed you, Ms. Henderson, because the truth doesn't need to be performed. The truth simply is. Judge Judy now turns to Liam, and the temperature in the room seems to drop. Mr. Bellingham, you are going to walk out of this courtroom today on 2 perfectly functioning legs. You have mobility Ms. Henderson would give anything to have back. You can stand, walk, run, climb stairs, all the things she can no longer do. But I want you to understand something crucial. You are leaving here with less than she has. The courtroom is utterly silent. Everyone is listening. Ms. Henderson has integrity. She has compassion. She has courage, grace, and the respect of everyone who witnessed her testimony today. What do you have, Mr. Bellingham? A law degree from a prestigious university, an expensive suit, and a luxury watch. 6 years of winning cases by intimidating victims and protecting corporations from accountability. She pauses before delivering the blow. But what good is any of that without character? What value does success have when it's built on cruelty? You are educated, Mr. Bellingham. But today you demonstrated that education without empathy is nothing more than sophisticated ignorance. You are successful in your career, but success without humanity is merely expensive failure. You can cite legal precedents and argue insurance law, but you forgot the most fundamental principle that should guide every lawyer. The law exists to serve justice. And justice requires us to see the humanity in every person who comes before us, especially those who are vulnerable, hurting, and in need of protection. Liam is openly crying now. His professional facade completely shattered. Judge Judy delivers her final judgment. Get out of my courtroom. Mr. Bellingham, go home and think about what kind of lawyer you want to be. Think about whether you want to continue being the person who walked in here today, or whether you want to become someone who actually deserves the privilege of practicing law. She continues, the Bar Association will contact you regarding their investigation. The Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled will contact you regarding your community service schedule. And law schools throughout New York will contact you regarding your speaking engagements. You have a long road ahead of you, counselor. I suggest you use that time wisely. Court is adjourned. The gavel falls with a sharp crack like a door slamming shut on Liam Bellingham's old life. Bailiff. Bird escorts him out as Liam moves like a man in a daze. His expensive briefcase hanging limply at his side, his shoulders slumped. The arrogant confidence he arrived with has dissolved into stunned humiliation. The insurance executive, Robert Chen, approaches Patricia before he leaves. Ms. Henderson, he says quietly. Consolidated National will process your full claim within the week. You have my personal commitment on that. And for what it's worth, I'm truly sorry for how you were treated. This should never have happened. Patricia nods, accepting his words with the same grace she has shown throughout her ordeal. 6 months later, the aftermath of that explosive courtroom moment has reshaped multiple lives in ways no one could have predicted. Liam Bellingham was fired from Whitman and Associates within 48 hours of the episode airing. The managing partners issued a statement saying his behavior was inconsistent with the firm's values and that he had been terminated effective. Immediately, the New York State Bar Association suspended his law license for 2 years. Following a disciplinary hearing in which the Judge Judy footage was played in full, no law firm in New York would hire him afterward. His reputation became toxic. His name turned into shorthand for legal cruelty. The clip of him laughing at Patricia went viral, reaching more than 47 million views on YouTube alone. He became an international symbol of everything wrong with corporate defense law, cautionary tale of what happens when lawyers forget that clients are human beings, not case numbers. The last anyone heard, Liam was working as a contract document reviewer for $35 an hour, 90% pay cut from his former salary. He sold his $45,000 watch to pay bills. He gave up his luxury apartment and moved into a studio in Queens. His entire life shrank to match the smallness of character he revealed in Judge Judy's courtroom. But Patricia Henderson's story took a very different path. Consolidated National Insurance paid her full claim, a $2.3 million settlement covering all medical expenses past and future, loss of income, pain and suffering, and quality of life damages. Patricia used part of the settlement to renovate her Brooklyn home for full wheelchair accessibility. She installed ramps, widened her doorways, renovated her bathroom, and created a home where she could live with independence and dignity. But she didn't stop there. Patricia transformed the hardship she endured into purpose. She founded a nonprofit organization called Teachers on Wheels, dedicated to helping disabled educators continue teaching through adaptive technology and online platforms. The organization provides training, equipment, and support to teachers who have acquired disabilities but wish to remain in the profession they love. Within 6 months, Teachers on Wheels was serving more than 200 educators across 5 states. And Patricia became a nationally recognized advocate for disability rights in education. The Brooklyn Borough President awarded her a key to the city in recognition of her service and advocacy. She was invited to speak at Columbia Law School Liam's alma mater about disability rights and the importance of empathy in legal practice. Over 300 students attended her lecture, and she received a standing ovation. Her testimony before the New York State Legislature helped pass new legislation strengthening protections against insurance companies that engage in bad faith claim denials, especially in catastrophic injury cases. The bill, now known as Patricia's Law, requires insurance companies to provide clear justification for any claim denial and imposes penalties on companies that systematically deny valid claims to avoid payouts. Patricia's son, inspired by her resilience and by Judge Judy's commitment to justice, graduated from law school and now works for a disability rights legal clinic. He represents clients facing discrimination and fights for accessibility accommodations. He says that witnessing his mother's mistreatment and then watching Judge Judy defend her dignity showed him exactly what kind of lawyer he wanted to be. Patricia still teaches, but now she does it through online courses for homebound and hospitalized students. She developed a curriculum for children who are too sick to attend traditional schools, kids undergoing cancer treatment, recovering from accidents, or managing chronic illnesses. She delivers education to students who thought their learning had to stop because of their medical challenges. Her virtual classroom has become a lifeline for dozens of families. Parents call her a miracle worker, though Patricia insists she's simply doing what teachers do, showing up for students who need her. The Judge Judy episode featuring Liam Bellingham's meltdown became the most-watched episode in the show's history. More than 14 million viewers tuned in for the original broadcast. The episode is now used in legal ethics courses at over 50 universities as a prime example of what happens when lawyers abandon their professional responsibilities. Bar associations across the country have included clips from the episode in their training programs. The moment Liam laughed at Patricia has been analyzed in legal journals, discussed in ethics seminars, and debated in courtrooms as a clear example of conduct unbecoming an attorney, but beyond legal analysis and professional consequences. The episode resonated with millions of ordinary people because it revealed something rare and powerful, a moment of true justice, a moment when power could not shield cruelty, when wealth could not buy an escape from accountability, and when a disabled woman was defended, believed, and uplifted by an authority figure who refused to let contempt go unchallenged. If this story moved you, if you believe that disabled victims deserve respect and dignity, share this with someone who needs a reminder that justice still exists in this world. Like this video if you admire Patricia Henderson's grace in the face of cruelty and her ability to transform suffering into service. Subscribe for more powerful stories where arrogance meets accountability and where the arc of justice, though sometimes slow, ultimately bends toward what is right. Judge Judy taught us something profound that day, something far deeper than courtroom procedure or legal precedent. She reminded us that the law is not just a collection of statutes, insurance policies, or settlement negotiations. The law is about human beings. It is about protecting the vulnerable. It is about ensuring that power and privilege do not become weapons against those who are already suffering. Liam Bellingham learned the most expensive lesson of his life. Character is the only thing you truly own. And once you destroy it through cruelty and contempt, no amount of money, education, or professional success can buy it back. Patricia Henderson showed us what real strength looks like. Not the aggressive swagger of a lawyer determined to win at all costs, but the quiet dignity of a woman who held on to her humanity even when confronted with mockery and disrespect. She could not stand on her legs that day in court, but she stood tall in every way that truly matters. That is justice. That is dignity. That is what happens when cruelty faces consequence and grace triumphs over arrogance. Remember Judge Judy's words. Education without empathy is just sophisticated ignorance. Success without humanity is just expensive failure. And power without compassion is nothing but cruelty wearing a suit. Patricia Henderson proved that. Strength isn't defined by physical ability. It's defined by the person you choose to be when everything else has been taken from you. Justice served. Dignity defended. Arrogance destroyed. That's justice.